Welcome to another episode of the Sales Hunter podcast. Hey, are great salespeople made or are they born? Darrell Amy is going to join me in just a moment. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more. So, hey, let's roll.
You're listening to the Sales Hunter podcast with Mark Hunter, where the focus is to help you as a sales leader sell with confidence and integrity. And now here's your host.
Yes, today's episode is all about, are salespeople made or are they born? And Darrell Amy is going to join us. Good friend of the show. Let's get him in there right now. Hey, Darrell, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Mark. What's going on?
Not too much. And of course, we know you from Selling from the Heart and the Revenue Growth Engine.
Absolutely.
And you're just an all-around good guy. But hey, let's not waste time. Let's talk about salespeople. So here's the question of the day. Are great salespeople made or are they born?
Yeah, well, I think since people buy from people, all salespeople at one point were probably born. But that's
a really a question. Wow,
I think it's got to be a sliding scale. Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much. I think it's got to be a sliding scale on this. I mean, there are certainly, there's no doubt that there's a relational aspect to sales, and there's a value aspect to sales, and there's an activity or discipline aspect to it. We talk about it selling from the heart in terms of the trust formula. You got to have authentic relationships. The other side of the coin is meaningful value. And I think these are both areas, whether you're born with great relational skills, you can still grow in those areas. Whether you graduate from university, let's say, with a business degree from Wharton or, from Harvard, or you graduate with a communications degree or a political science degree right here, you can grow in your value in terms if you're selling B2B and business acumen. So I think that the answer has got to be it's a sliding scale in some ways. But the reality is wherever you fall in terms of your relational acumen, your business acumen, and your ability to execute habits, these are all areas where you've got to commit to continual growth if you want to be successful in sales or any endeavor for that matter.
I just heard a little bit of a downplay on the communications degree. You kind of chuckled before you said that.
Wait, truthfully, it'd probably be the best degree for any of us to have, especially now, Mark, that we've discovered that in addition to being sales leaders, sales trainers, we're also radio hosts, right?
See, this is why I cracked up laughing at you, chuckled a little bit, because you're right. Communications degrees. Oh yeah, those were kind of a little bit of the easiest degrees to get and so forth. But what's interesting is we all communicate. And sure, we do podcasts and we do training, we do speaking, all that stuff. But everybody's communicating every day.
Absolutely.
And you also said something else in terms of the personality, in terms of, who they are. And yes, you talk about that a lot, Selling from the Heart, with that great podcast. And if you don't subscribe to Selling from the Heart podcast, do it after you subscribe to the Sales Hunter podcast. So anyway,
that's great.
But here's something very interesting is I believe it's who you associate with that determines it. People say, oh, well, they're just a born salesperson. I don't think so. They were probably just exposed to people who have great personalities, who have communication skills early on. And maybe that gave them a head start. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think Jeff makes an interesting comment here. And I think this comment's very interesting, Jeff. Jeff says they're natural talents you need for the respective sales process you're in. You can't make a hunter out of a farmer. And there is only one sales hunter and one only. But if you think about
it's copyrighted, it's trademarked, don't steal it.
Right. It is funny to me that my friends who go hunting actually climb up into a tree in the dark, freezing cold, and sit there and wait for something to walk by, which is kind of the opposite of what we would consider a sales hunter. Nonetheless, I digress. I think that it is very important to profile people we're going to hire for those of us in sales leadership. But I think it's also important to realize that different dimensions of the sales world require different skills. And so I think that, if you look and you need somebody who is going to be going out and being that hunter, there's a different personality for someone who's in a full cycle sales motion where they're doing account development and building relationships over time. So I do think that is important in terms of thinking about that profile of that person and their natural bent, their natural skill set. But regardless of where they land, there's still going to need to be growth in terms of relationship skills, value skills, habits, etc.
See, I'm going to push back on you a little bit on this one. And I'm going to push back on Jeff. Jeff, thank you for putting that comment in there, because yes, there are natural talents, but here's what I think it comes down to in terms of hunter and farmers, because I've seen farmers become hunters, and they become hunters when they grasp three things. And you really don't have to grasp all three. One, they know they're going to starve to death unless they hunt. Okay. So, I mean, it's kind of like,
that does motivate. And it's important.
It's this motivation back. Now, let's put that aside though, because that's kind of a cheap shot. Here's what it comes down to. If you truly believe, once you believe that you can help somebody and you know the type of people you can help, then I think it begins to change your desire to become a hunter, because now you say, hey, wait a minute, I know I can help this person. I know I can help them. I owe it to them to reach out to them. And then what happens is you gain this level of confidence, because I think one of the big differences between farmers and hunters is it's just this lack of confidence. Now, not to put one down, not to put one or the other down. No, not at all. It's just that the hunter believes so confidently that they know they can help people. They want to be able to reach out to them. And so I think that's
great.
Yeah, anyway.
But I would say that also applies to the farmer. Let's just think about, the farmer is not somebody who's just sitting around waiting for something to happen. If you have a role where you're involved in account management, where you're directly affecting cross-selling, for example, you're that passion, that drive, that motivation, that confidence level needs to flow through into your quarterly business reviews with clients. It needs to flow through into your efforts to grow relationships inside that organization and deepen, your involvement in that account. So I think what you're saying is absolutely right. But this whole thing of building confidence, building purpose, discovering your why, and really bringing that to the table. We talk a lot about authenticity and knowing your inner self, doing the deep work and developing that motivation. I think that's a responsibility of high-performing sales professionals. It's also the responsibility and opportunity of leaders who want to create high-performing sales professionals, to really coach them on that motivation. And that motivation's got to go beyond the wallet. There's got to be something deeper than that.
Oh, the wallet only motivates you so far.
It's good.
Sure, it's good. But once you're getting your needs, once you're getting your level of satisfaction, I talk to a lot of VPs of sales who will sit there and say, I've got some salespeople who I believe are just absolutely content with the base salary they make. They are not hungry enough to need to go for the commission.
Okay.
And they become farmers. But I'm gonna if we look at the context of a farmer, you have a field and you have crops that you're growing. Don't you have a desire to get as big of a yield as possible out of those out of that acreage you have? Sure you do. So what are you doing? You're nurturing your crops, you're fertilizing, you're doing all of the agricultural nuances to maximize the yield of your crop. So guess what? To a certain degree, you're hunting. You're not just sitting back waiting for stuff to come.
You're doing something, and
you're doing something, right?
I would say it's maybe harder to be a farmer than it is to be a hunter in a lot of ways, because there is a lot of work that's required over time to get the yield. And in Revenue Growth Engine, the whole premise behind the Revenue Growth Engine is that there's two ways and two ways only to grow revenue: net new, hunter; cross-sell, farmer, right? And the reality is, in most organizations, probably about 2-to-1 in the organizations that I get to work with, they're good at hunting. They've got that, they're consistent. They've got a program in place. Everyone can grow, but they've got that nailed. But when it comes to cross-selling, which is maximizing the yield off of an account. You know, a lot of companies just simply don't have, they may have some people in place there, but they don't really have the process, and they don't have the, well, quite frankly, the hunter mindset when it comes to going in and grabbing and harvesting all the yield off those accounts.
So spot on, because if you only want to be a farmer, you will eventually starve to death, because your accounts will one day go away. They will go away. And if you're not continuously finding new business, you will ultimately starve to death. So, I mean, this is a whole thing that you can sit there and say, oh, I just want to be a farmer. I just want to be an account manager, take care of existing accounts. Well, that's fine. But what happens if that account that you're managing, or the accounts that you're managing, they don't grow their business? They don't create more opportunities for you. Then guess what? You find yourself on the short end of the stick. And if they are growing, okay, great. There may be some business that comes to you, but you owe it to yourself. You owe it to that customer to reach out, develop more contacts, develop more relationships. And yeah, that's exactly what you talk about in Revenue Growth Engine, in your book. It's about finding those opportunities wherever they are to grow your business.
That's right. And here's what's interesting. Net new and cross sell. If you are good at one of them, you're going to enjoy linear growth. It's going to be a straight line, year over year. We see this in a lot of companies, and we see this in a lot of sales professionals. But if you get both going at the same time, if you develop the processes and the discipline to do net new and cross sell, to go out and prospect and grow your current accounts at the same time, now you get the good old hockey stick going. You get exponential growth. Did you realize, Mark, that if you grow net new at 12 to 14% and cross sell, which I measure as revenue per client, at 12 to 14%, you actually double revenue in 36 months. I mean, how many sales professionals and sales leaders listening in would go, wow, if we could double revenue in 36 months, what would that mean for me personally or for our organization? That happens when you get both of these things in motion at the same time.
Which means you need to be doing both.
Right.
And I strongly contend this, and it comes back to something though, because you're not going to really achieve either of those growth modes unless you're disciplined.
That's right.
Which, you talk about is a great salesperson born or made? Well, one of the things you have to do is you have to be able to become self-disciplined to be able to get the work done. Because how many times have we seen great salespeople never achieve greatness because they're not disciplined?
And I think that comes, you could drill down into that in a couple of levels of management, personal management. And by the way, Stephen Covey, I was reminded of his great quote this past weekend: 80% of leadership is self-leadership. And so when you think about that in terms of myself as a sales professional, 80% of it is the deep work we do. It's what happens in your mind. It's the preparation that you do the weekend before. I love your book, In a Mind for Sales. You say Monday morning is not prep time, right? It's go time. And so you look at fundamentals where we can always grow, which is in time management and productivity, two max areas where you can maximize. If you don't nail time management and productivity, you're never going to be able to get the activity in to cross sell and do net new at the same time. And on top of that, I think there's also another thing that doesn't get spoken about much, but should become more a part of our conversation. And that is energy management as well. Look, we only have so many hours in a day, and we only have so much energy. What are we doing to maximize our time? What are we doing to maximize our energy? And sales professionals, I just want to challenge you. Look at your energy. Look at your ability to bring energy and focus and enthusiasm throughout a day, and find ways to maximize that.
So now this comes back to something very interesting in terms of, productivity and time management. Mm-hmm. And that really comes down to, are you reacting to the day or are you proactive to the day?
Yes.
And I find so many salespeople, what they are is they're reactive to the day. Well, they'll do whatever their customers tell them. The top performing salesperson is proactive. They drive the day because they know there's a limited amount of time. And if they don't choose to use it, it goes back to, and I don't remember if it was Stephen Covey or who had the line, but we're all achieving goals. If you're not achieving your own goals, you're achieving somebody else's goals.
That's right.
Right?
Absolutely.
Right. And sure, we want to help our customers achieve their goals. I mean, Zig Ziglar made that comment. The fastest way to achieve your goals is to help others achieve theirs. I totally get that. But you're doing that with an intentional purpose. You're doing that with an absolute deliberate action because you know where you want to place your time. You know where you want to invest your time. And again, time is an investment. And are you getting an ROI off of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the obvious one's prospecting. That's got to be blocked on your calendar. If you don't have prospecting blocks on your calendar, I should be able to open your calendar and look at March of 2023, 2024, and know when you're going to be prospecting. Like that one's a no-brainer. But what about if you're a full cycle sales rep, meaning you manage accounts, not just closing them, but also maximizing your revenue off those accounts? Where's the time blocks for account management? And here's the deal. If those things don't make it to your calendar in the format of time blocks, and you go, well, Darrell, I got clients that need things. Okay, we'll slide the time block. It's fine, but commit to it. If you don't have those things on your calendar, one of two things is going to happen. They're never going to happen, or they're always going to happen. In other words, you're never going to get around to prospecting or managing your clients, or you're going to spend your whole day prospecting and make, 8 calls in 4 hours because you weren't focused on this. And this is why, to me, the most important hour of my week is on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. I have an appointment every single Saturday morning. And that appointment includes two things, me and my calendar. And my calendar is, next to the Bible, the most important book in my life, because this is where I'm going to look at time. And so that Saturday morning, 10 a.m. appointment is where I'm going to take a look at what I want to accomplish. And I'm going to block time during the week. And this practice is revolutionary. And I think as sales professionals, we have in any kind of professional, we have this ability to just get on autopilot and let our calendars become, open to anybody for anything at any time. And we get lost, and you get to the end of the day and the end of the week and you go, what happened? I didn't get anything done. And the reality is we got to block this time, and you've got to plan on the weekend. It's so critical.
So spot on with that. And here's something key, because blocking calendar, we got people who are chiming in. Kayla jumps in. Yes.
Yeah. Kayla
definitely helps. But here's the whole thing. We've got to channel Covey here.
Yes.
Because here's the whole thing. You can put anything you want on your calendar, but unless you're self-disciplined, remember, starts with yourself. Stephen Covey says it. 80% of leadership begins with yourself. So if you can't lead yourself, you can write anything you want on your calendar and you won't do it.
Yeah. And here's another little trick that has been helpful to me in addition to that weekly planning meeting. And yes, thank you, Kayla. Kayla is a true selling from the heart champion. She's just gold. I'm the biggest gadget person in the world. I've got iPads, iPhones, iWatches, anything, right? I love gadgets. I'm a total tech nerd. However, except for one thing, and that is with my daily plan. And here's what I discovered, Mark, and I don't know about the rest of the listeners, but I discovered that my calendar lives digitally, but until I write it down, it doesn't live in my brain. And so I started a habit. Here it is, piece of paper. I've got a methodology that I came up with myself and I use. And every single morning, the first 10 minutes of my day is spent defining what's going to happen during the day, reconnecting with values, reconnecting with purpose, and then literally taking my calendar hour by hour, moment by moment, drawing it out on a piece of paper. So for me, it becomes tactile, it becomes tangible. And those are the moments where I make the commitment to prospect, the commitment to go to the gym after work today, right? It's that I make that commitment to myself. And these are the things, I just discovered that my life on digital, until it makes this piece of paper, is, I don't know, the moment pen hits paper. And maybe it's my age, but there's something that happens when I actually write it down and plan it. that things begin happening. And see, these are the types of habits that are developed and learned. So that would lean more towards sales people are built, they're developed, they're learned.
Oh, wow.
This is
So
a
now
learned
you're
skill.
rewriting the rules, born or made. And now
Made. There it is. I was looking for the word.
Go,
I was
man,
like,
here you go.
but you make yourself into a professional when you begin to grow in some of these habits. And it doesn't matter if you're the most personable person in the world. You can make a friend with anybody. You've got great relational skills. The habits thing, I don't know that anyone comes out of the womb with good habits. I mean, seriously, I don't think anyone steps into a professional role with great habits, and great habits can always be improved on. I'm always looking for productivity hacks and ways to improve my efficiency and my effectiveness, because every time I do that, it results in more money.
But you look at it, the top performing people are absolutely disciplined. They've got a ritualistic approach to their day. I just saw an article this morning, 75% of all CEOs are up before 6 a.m.
Yep.
And you just have it wrong. You go to the gym at the end of the day. No, I'm lacing up the shoes no later than 6:05 to go out.
But good for you. I go for a walk in the morning. That lets me collect my thoughts. And then at the end of the day, I got this torture machine that I go on, and it actually boosts my energy for the evening. It's very, very strategic for me, but you got to figure out what works for you.
Well, again, you just hit on something. My ritual, my routine is dramatically different today than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Just because my lifestyle is different things. But I adapt it, and I stay very focused on what I'm supposed to be doing. So anyway, hey, we got to wrap up our time here because, we only buy about 23 minutes worth of airtime a week. That's all we get. So anyway, I know.
Hey, we got a time block. We got to get to prospecting.
We have got a time block. But you notice how I said 23 minutes? I didn't say about 30 minutes. I said 23 minutes. Okay, I'm sorry. We are rambling here. We've been talking with Darrell Amy, Revenue Growth Engine, Selling from the Heart. You got to check out both books. You got to hey, where's the best place for people to find you? And then are you going to stick around for the after the show?
Oh, totally stick around for the after the show. But the Revenue Growth Engine is a manual to align sales and marketing to accelerate growth. And I'd love to send you a copy. Just text the word revenue to 21,000. That's revenue to 21,000. Or you can swing by revenuegrowthengine.com. And I'd love to send you a free copy if you'll chip in for shipping and handling.
Good.
But yeah, absolutely.
And of course, your podcast with great friend Larry Levine.
Yeah.
Selling from the Heart. So,
we're selling from the heart. We're having a great time every week with thought leaders like
So I'm going to put the Sales Hunter podcast coffee mug into your hands if you would give me your address. So
that's fantastic.
Okay. Hey, we need to cut out of here. We need to run to the after the show. So stay right there. Don't run away. We'll be right back. You've been listening to the Sales Hunter podcast with Mark Hunter. Hey, do want to have you check out the Sales Hunter University. Why? Because we have a wide range of courses to help you prospect more effectively. Now, back to the show with Mark Hunter and Darrell Amy. Yes, we're here. Anyway,
all right.
Thank you for that show. You got a lot of stuff going on. Talk to the audience about your event in October in Fort Worth, Texas.
It's actually still on the screen behind me.
It's on the screen behind you.
So Larry Levine, my podcast co-host and good friend at Selling from the Heart, we've been thinking a whole lot over the last year about not just selling from the heart, but what does leading from the heart look like? What does it mean to create an authentic sales culture that drives results? And it was interesting in the first part of the show, we were talking about how important it is for individual salespeople to understand their why, to know their motivation, and to have a purpose beyond the paycheck for what they're doing in sales to be able to drive them. Well, if you think about that, what does that look like at a team level? And I think the word culture comes in. Good old Mark Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
That would be Peter Drucker, not Mark Drucker. So.
Yeah, thank you. I was looking at Mark Hunter. Thanks for the correction.
I'll take claim to it, but
Peter Drucker's brother-in-law, Mark Drucker.
Yeah.
tip of the hat to Peter Drucker, Culture Eats Strategy for Breakfast. And we can have all the best practices on sales management, and we need to, but your culture is really critical. So we started talking about this with our good friend, Dave Sanderson. And if you haven't gotten to know Dave, Dave is incredible. What a just inspirational guy to the core. One of the most interesting parts of his story is he was the last guy off Sully's plane that landed in the Hudson River. And Dave is a personal leadership, just guru of gurus, worked with Tony Robbins for years. Great guy. So we partnered with Dave and said, let's look at what could we do to equip great visionary sales leaders to be able to develop a culture of performance and authenticity and purpose driven. I mean, it's going to be so exciting. So we're coming to your town. We're coming to Fort Worth, Texas. Well, it's right next to your town.
It's right next. It's close. I've got the date marked on my calendar. So
that's
where can
right.
people go? Because we are running out of time. I got to put another quarter in the machine here in a second.
Here we go. Yep. So we're coming to Fort Worth on October 20th for the Breakthrough Sales Leaders Retreat. It's going to be a blast.
And the website you can go to find out information.
Easy. BreakthroughSalesRetreat.com. BreakthroughSalesRetreat.com.
Thank you. Yes. I'm glad I could sell you that domain name. So anyway, glad it worked. Hey, Darrell, great to have you on.
Oh, what a pleasure. Always
good.
Fun.
Always good. And both Larry's been on the show and Sanderson. What a great guy.
Oh my gosh.
I had awesome. A great time talking to him. And so anyway, hey, but we'll get all three of you guys on the show here.
That would be fun.
Somewhere down the road. So anyway, hey, we want to say thank you so much. And you've been listening to the Sales Hunter podcast. I'm Mark Hunter. Each week we bring to you an episode. Why? Because we want you to sell with integrity. We want you to find better prospects. We want you to be the successful salesperson that we know you can be. I'm Mark Hunter. See you next week.